Hey everyone, my name is Melvin and I am the creative director here at Parent ProTech. And I have the pleasure of introducing the CEO of Troomi Wireless, Bill Brady. Bill, how are you?
Good morning, Melvin. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. It's so great that we have this moment together. We'll learn more about you and more about Troomi Wireless, which we love what you guys are doing. You have some
Thank
exciting
you.
updates that were just announced and more things to come. So we're excited about this season that you're in. And we thank you for what you're doing for the community, creating smart tech, so wearable tech, as well as smartphones designed with kids in mind. And that's so important in today's digital world. And Parent ProTech here, we just try and help families navigate the digital world safely, right? So there's so much in the tech world, there's so much in this space that families just feel unsecure about or have questions about, and that's where we step in that gap. So we definitely want to empower communities, teachers and educators, parents, caregivers to safely navigate tech, and that's where our heart is. So thank you so much again. I want to start off with a little question I have for you, Bill, and this is a fun question to start things off. And if you had a time machine, right? To relive one day in your past, what day would that be?
Yeah. So you can answer that from two perspectives, right? It's I could relive a happy day or relive something I'd like to do differently. And I think my mind immediately goes, I this may be cheesy and that's okay. I immediately think of the day that I married my wife. Uh, I would relive that day every day. And Heidi's been an incredible companion and wonderful wife and wonderful mother and, greatest day of my life. So,
Yeah, I think I echo that myself if I had to answer that question. Same thing for me when I married my wife. So we've been married for 9 years now, and that's the time where like I entered this new season where a lot of what I've entered into now came because of that day. So to relive that and just have all that family, my wife's an amazing mother. We have a 7-year-old daughter, and
awesome.
so it's amazing to relive that day and just take in more of that moment. So I agree with you on that. Yeah, that's amazing.
And nine years, you're just getting warmed up. Like that's,
Oh, I know. I don't know anything. I just I just go with the flow. I'm still learning. Yeah, there's so much to learn. So yeah. Now, like I said, here at Parent Protect, we try and help families navigate tech safely. And I had a question. What role do you believe Troomi help has in helping families navigate tech?
we really want to be the guide. We don't ever want to diminish the role of parents. Parents have the primary responsibility for all of the health and nurture and teaching and well being of their kids. And we look at the role between parents and children. Parents are the heroes. Parents are the heroes of the story of the family, and we want to be here as a guide, as a resource. We know that parents are feeling absolutely overwhelmed with a lot of the questions surrounding kids and tech. So our job is to empower them, to be a guide, to be a resource. But we don't ever want to diminish the absolutely essential and sacred role that they play in their families.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And it was just released. There's new updates and a new phase that you're entering now. So one of the things is Trudy. So can you tell me a little bit more about Trudy?
Yeah, and I'll back up and give some context for what we're doing with this great new functionality. So I think more and more parents in the United States are realizing that giving smartphones to kids at a young age is dangerous. There seems to be a growing social conscientiousness in that regard, and certainly the research is backing that up. And if you talk to 99% of parents, they're aware of to some level, the obvious dangers. All parents would agree they don't want kids immersed in pornography. They don't want kids being bullied. They don't want their kids being chased by predators. And I would consider those the obvious dangers when it comes to kids and tech. That said, there are a lot of less obvious dangers that are just as risky. And if you look at the statistics, there's no question that we've entered what has been called a youth mental health crisis, skyrocketing levels of stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness. 1 in 4 kids is dealing with clinical level anxiety or depression. And, I don't think it's fair to say that technology is completely to cause for that, but the research is clear that it plays a role. And as we've, stopped having kids playing outside and started having them live, their lives on screens, that had a detrimental effect on children and mental health. If you go back up to our mission from the very beginning, Troomi has always been about helping parents to raise happy, confident, thriving children. And that's why, we started with safety. Let's just get kids out of the garbage that we see as leading to dangerous situations and negative mental health outcomes. So Trudy, that you referred to, is our next step, where we want to give children a means to have conversations and ask questions and share their feelings and develop emotional resilience and healthy habits regarding their mental health. And we want to give parents insight into how their kids are doing. So we introduced Trudy, which is an AI mental health coach or companion. It's optional, so parents have to activate it to have it on their kids' phones. It's free of charge. We make it available to everyone. But for parents who activate it, their kids then have Trudy on their phones, and they can ask Trudy questions anytime. And it could be anything from, "Hey, I'm dealing with a really difficult kid at school who's always bugging me, and I don't know how to address the situation." Well, they could talk about something like that. They could talk about stress they're having with a sibling. They could talk about any kind of good or bad thing that they're going through. And Trudy will ask them questions. This is all happening over text message. Trudy asks questions. What are you excited about today? What were you grateful for today? And just gets the kids talking. On the parent side of that, right inside our parent portal, we've introduced a mental health dashboard where from those conversations that the child is having with Trudy, a parent can see, what are my child's predominant emotions right now, and track that over time. And hopefully all those emotions are positive and happy. But if they happen to be dealing with something and the lines of communication haven't been where they ought to be with the child, the parent's getting a heads up. Wow, my child really is dealing with some tough stuff. And I'm actually seeing the insights about what those tough things might be. So it's pretty revolutionary and pretty awesome. And the feedback we're getting from our customers is extremely positive.
Yeah, that's definitely a step to the next level, I think, of parenting and just getting that trusted friend, because we all had that, invisible friend growing up that we would talk to. But now you have Trudy who's stepping in and actually providing that communication.
And it's important that people realize kids are already using technology like this. And I would rather my own children be talking to Trudy than to some kind of open AI that has no guardrails. We've built Trudy, so Trudy is not going to get into inappropriate subject matter. Uh, it's not going to give advice on sensitive subjects. Parents can imagine what some of those things might be. And if a child does try to get into something that's sensitive, Trudy's going to steer them back. to their parents, as opposed to get into a conversation that I wouldn't want my child to be having with an AI, for example.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. So, how transparent are these conversations? You mentioned that Trudy will talk about the emotions, but are parents able to see the conversations that their child are having with Trudy?
They can decide that. So a parent can determine if they want to have visibility into the conversation, just like they do now with remote text monitoring on the conversations that kids are having with their friends. It's the exact same concept. As a parent, I can say, yes, I do want to see the transcripts of the conversations with Trudy, or I don't want to. But either way, I can receive insights. So, for example, um, you might see an insight that says, without having to see the whole conversation, get an insight that says Sally is dealing with some stress right now about the passing of her grandmother. Uh, she was really close to her and she's dealing with a lot of grief right now. So I could see that summary without having to, be in the details of, okay, what was that conversation?
Wow, that's great. Yeah. And you mentioned how OpenAI has no guardrails. What kind of guardrails do you have with Trudy? Like, is it, do you have, I would imagine like a private data model that Trudy is actually pulling from, or how's that work?
Yeah, so the guardrails make it very clear, that the AI is going to discuss subjects around health and mental health without getting into anything that would be sexually explicit, for example. Or there are just some questions a child might have that need to be one on one. They have to be one on one, and so the AI is very well trained, both through the work we did as we were building it and in our beta testing, is very trained to know here's where I stop. The first guardrail is that the paradigm of the AI is positive. I've seen some other tools out there that are just so negative feeling. They start as though they're doing a clinical test for depression, and it would we didn't want it to have the feeling of Melvin. In the last 2 weeks, have you felt so hopeless that blah 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 blah? We wanted none of that. So all of our conversation prompts are extremely positive. And a child can answer. We want them to answer with whatever's going on in their lives. So it could be positive. So, for example, Bill, what are you excited about today? And I could say, my sister's coming home from college. I haven't seen her in 6 months. It's going to be a wonderful reunion. Great. And now Trudy would have a conversation about that relationship with the sister and how great it's going to be. I could also say, if I weren't in a great place, I'm not excited about anything right now. My parents have been fighting. I've got a kid that's bullying me at school. My grades are down, and I've got so much anxiety I can't sleep. And then Trudy's going to let the child explore those emotions and give some advice on, how to unwind and try and step out of the anxiety so they can sleep more, for example. It'll always start positive, and if it does go to some tougher conversations, it's going to keep those within the confines of what would be considered appropriate content. It won't get into anything that's explicit or of a sensitive nature that parents wouldn't be comfortable with. And we don't ever want AI to take the place of human connection. That's certainly not the point. But the truth is that millions and millions and millions of kids today are dealing with things that clearly they're not getting the necessary connections and having the necessary conversations to keep them in a positive mental health space. So this is just a tool. It's not a therapist. It's not a diagnostic tool. It's certainly not intended to take the place of a parent. But it's just a tool to help kids in this journey.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. That's great. Now, what feedback I wanted to ask do you get most often from parents, and how does that shape the decisions that you make at Troomi?
Just speaking in general about everything we do, parents love the peace of mind. It's like I mentioned in the beginning, every family in America, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. If you've got kids in your house under the age of 18, you're dealing with these questions of kids and technology at some level. And hopefully a family hasn't got into some of the really tough things that can happen with bullies or predators and some of the awful things that are out there. Um, but even if it's just down to managing screen time and trying to get our kids outside instead of just parked in front of a screen all the time, um, parents love about Troomi that this is a tool where they can say, "Hey, I use this. I can keep my kids safe, and I can try and encourage uh, a lifestyle where screens are not the default for how free time is spent." So that's common feedback. It's the peace of mind knowing that my kids are only talking and texting with people that have been approved. If you have that safe listing feature turned on, literally the kids cannot talk or text with anyone who's not on their contact list. That's massive peace of mind. It's peace of mind that comes from content filtering, that if something inappropriate were to come through, boom, we're going to stop it. The kid's not going to get a nude picture that someone sends in a moment of poor judgment, even if they are on the contact list. It's not coming through. And so parents love that. It doesn't replace parenting, but it sure makes it easier to manage all of the devices and what technology is brought into our homes.
I know one feedback or some feedback we get from parents when it comes to wireless devices, phones, and wearable tech is they want something easy, right? They want
Yeah,
something that they can like just set up and they don't really, they want it to be Fort Knox, but they don't want it to be like this crazy technical aspect that you really have to spend time reading like a 100 book
yeah.
instruction booklet. So that's one thing. And I can tell you, I reached out to your team. They sent me the device. I spent a few weeks, testing out the Troomi Phone Pro. And I can say right out of the box, it was so easy to set up. That was, I think, my favorite thing. It was like, boom, within like 5 or 10 minutes, I think I was ready to go. I was ready to hand over the device to my daughter. So that to me was amazing. We set up a new phone number, a new account, everything that I wanted to set up was done so easy. There wasn't any complications. I didn't need to reach out to anybody. So I love that aspect of things. And I appreciate that you guys make it so simple for parents because at the end of the day, we've had long days at work. We've got stuff to do around the house. We've got a lot of adulting to do. So the last thing we want to do is spend a lot of time trying to figure out
Yeah.
something, get frustrated with it.
Managing your kids' tech, that can't be a full-time job for anyone. But without
True.
without the right tools in place, it could feel like that. So I'm thrilled to hear that you had that kind of experience. One of my favorite Google reviews we've ever received was from a mom who had 9 children and got Troomi phones for 5 of them. And she said, I set up 5 phones in 30 minutes. This is almost too good to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously. It was such an easy process. And I think I felt peace like handing it to my daughter because I wasn't like, oh, did I overlook anything? Because it's like if you just allow talk and text, that's literally all they're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
There's no in-app browser that she can, that anybody can hide. So it's really assuring to hand over a device and obviously supervise and that's kind of sort of thing. But it was amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. The other question I had is what processes do you follow to ensure that your technology just stays ahead of these digital threats? Because there's, if you're watching the news, there's new threats that come out, there's stories. And so how do you navigate that to make sure that Troomi Wireless stays ahead of these threats?
Fantastic question. I would say that that happens on a few levels. One is that we're very involved from an industry perspective. Um, this summer, for example, I presented at the National Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation, and it was a big gathering in Washington D.C. And there were other technologists there, and everyone coming at the challenges and the problems from different angles, but all learning from each other. And I learned, for example, there about the threats that kids are facing. And I saw it, recordings of it, from other technologies, some of the things that are happening in video games, like these seemingly innocuous games where predators are just having a heyday. And some of the things I saw, like I couldn't repeat because I was so disgusted by it. Um, and so, that's the first level, is just staying very involved, playing a leadership role at an industry level, listening to our customers. We have a group of 50 customers who play an ongoing role in testing and providing feedback. And we're talking to them on a regular basis to understand the things that they're seeing, the things that they're dealing with. Um, it's staying up on top of other new technologies that are coming out, and it's staying on top of all the news of problems that we're seeing as a society, staying on top of the research and having relationships with the researchers, the people who are studying kids and technology and the effects thereof. Um, one of the Some of the work that got me into this space very originally 6 years ago was a phenomenal book called iGen by a researcher named Dr. Jean Twenge. Jean's on our advisory board now, and it's staying in touch with the research and really um, keeping that level of pulse on what's going on, but also obviously talking to parents. And frankly, some of the most valuable learning that we've done has come from kids directly, and talking to kids, and that's always an invaluable process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The kids, they will tell you, and they'll be honest with you too. Like, it's just there's no beating around the bush. You get the real deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it hurts when they tell you, but it's very informative, and you definitely want to stay ahead, straight from those that we're trying to protect, right? Which are the kids, right? We release a newsletter every month at Parent Pro Tech in English and in Spanish, and we take these news stories and just whatever updates in tech and how you can, whether it's something that like you said, like video games where, for example, Roblox, like, there's a lot of predators who jump on Roblox, and that's a big one out there right now. So we want to not just educate parents and make them aware, but we also want to provide them with some help, right? So, like setting parental controls. We never just want to give you the facts, but we also want to empower you and help you feel equipped to handle these threats, right? So that's amazing. Now, there's so many companies out there that create devices, right, with kids in mind. And you mentioned that you protect kids from, predators, from cyberbullying and other dangers and such. Now, we can only go based off of your word and off of reviews. But can you tell me why parents should trust Troomi?
At the first level, we've built this with our own kids in mind. I guess that's, this is the tool that our own kids use. Um, if anyone's gotten familiar with some of the tech leaders in other sectors, it was kind of a revelation when we found out that people like Steve Jobs didn't let his own kids have iPads.
Yeah.
That the people that are making the social media platforms say, I don't let my kids use this. That's pretty telling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I guess obviously read the reviews of our happy customers who give you the unvarnished experience. This is what they love. Um, and but on top of that, it's I mean this is what we do for our own children, and I can say to anyone, if I'm building this for my kids, you can trust it for your kids.
Yeah, that's amazing. As a parent, a lot of times it's hard to know what companies you can trust. Like, let's take the food industry, for example. There's a lot of food, that's a whole nother behemoth of a monster
Yes,
there.
it
But
is.
it's like, well, how do I trust this company's really has my child in mind when they're creating products, and how would I know that they're not secretly, their priorities are in other places? So it's really peaceful for me, and relieving for me to hear that from you, Bill. That you would trust, obviously, and I'm sure your kids have had Troomi phones, and you trust them with your devices.
And even when we get to the people that we've brought on as investors in our company, we're very focused on uh, bringing on people who have the right vision. I'll give you a quick example of that. Um, a couple of years ago, I got a letter from a girl in New York City, an actual handwritten letter, which is rare these days, right? And
Yeah.
she wrote a letter, very formal. Dear Mr. Brady, my name is so and so. I live in New York City. I'm 14 years old. And she explained that she'd gotten into trouble with her iPhone, and her mom took her phone away for 2 months. And she said, and I thought I was going to die. And after 2 months, her mom said, "Hey, it's time for a second chance. Here's a new phone. It's a Troomi phone." And what the girl said in the letter, and when I realized it didn't have social media, I thought I was going to die. But she finished the letter with the words, "I'm writing you to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't know I could be this happy." And I told that story to one of our early lead investors, um, someone who had come in with a lot of resources. And he teared up and he said, "That's it. I mean, if that's all that my investment has done, I'm satisfied. Like that's what we're here to do." He said, "This is what I wanted, was to change lives." And that's those are the kinds of investors that we've attracted because those are our goals. And so we don't have investors that are saying, "Oh no, you don't need to worry about what really matters." No, we're very focused on what really matters.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that kind of uh, summarizes my last question for you. If you could leave one last impact on families through Trumi, what would it be?
Number one is the safety, the peace, and the happiness of the child. If we can have the kind of influence where children are getting through their teenage years and they're healthy and they're happy and they're confident and they're ready to attack adulthood with all of their full potential, that's how we gauge success. Along that journey, we want to take the stress out of technology in families. So many families have just a really difficult time in parent and child relationships because of technology questions. And so I always say to parents, let us be the bad guy. You don't want your kids to have social media. They literally can't have social media on a Trumi device. So let us be the bad guy. And certainly they need to be having the conversations with their kids of why they're waiting on social media, for example. But it's become so much easier when the device that we provided the family, by the way it's built, the kids know it's not even possible. And so if we can take some of the friction out of those relationships as kids are growing up, that's another thing that's important to us. To that end, we also provide parents with a lot of resources on how to manage all of these technology questions. Um, yeah, so happy families and confident kids. That's what we're working for.
Yeah, that's a amazing goal and an amazing impact, and that's what I want to see with this generation of children as well. Just happy, you hear the statistics of the depression, as you shared earlier in kids in today's world. And what we say here at Parent Protect, if we can keep one child from being cyberbullied, one child from being addicted to the screen, or one child from being addicted to pornography, that's a win for us, and that's where our heart is. And Bill, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you that you went out and set on this mission to just try and help families and kids really to be empowered, to be happy, to live their life to the fullest, and to enjoy everything that life has to offer. So thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Great to be with you for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.